time for another Whack-A-Hovind, this time on Gutsick Gibbon, or Erica, and it's not so much about her as it is the heat problem, and of course Kent denying that that is at all a problem. This is an interesting one because it doesn't really focus so much on Erica as it does Kent rambling on about nuclear decay and bitching about stars and having Donnie and some other guy on here to support his bullshittery. So let's just get right into it.
Good evening, folks. Ken Hovind here in the crew at Dinosaur Adventureland in Lenox, Alabama, September the 4th, 2024. Tonight, Whack an Atheist, Erica, who calls herself the Gutsick Gibbon. I commented on her channel a couple days ago and said, look, you're going to be whacked tonight. If you'd like to come on, call in. They should call you, Joseph. Can we get another one in here? If she wants to call in.
Yes, Kent, because someone who, if memory serves, is living in the UK, that's where she's doing her studies. If you recorded this at 7 p.m., Central Time, it would be 1 in the morning in the UK on a Wednesday night / Thursday morning. And you expect someone in doing college work to take time out to call into your shitty live stream. You're so full of yourself, man.
55 Big Dino? No. I'll put the link in the chat. So Erica only. Right. Come in, defend your position. Okay. We're at Genesis
Blah, blah,
Baptist
blah.
Church, Baptist Church.
Jumping ahead.
Glory instead of ministry. If you're coming this way, please give me a call.
So this is where Kent had begged yet again, just like he did last week, for somebody to bring stuff from 2 particular spots in Texas to him, namely here and here, down to here. Kent, pay for somebody at stop 1, pay for a shipping company, pick up stuff at stop 1, go to stop 2, then bring it all together. Can't possibly be that expensive. Sure, you could afford it. Or, if these people care so much about your stupid little ministry, they can pay for it. Also, I hate that I am up here on the map. Kent's down here. I hate that I'm that close to Kent Hovind. That's just the way it is, though. Let's keep on going.
855 Big Dino extension 3. Okay, tonight, the Gutsick Gibbon says there is a heat problem. Really?
Yes, really. There is.
We'll talk about that. So if you want to help us to open for free, join our 777 Club. Say, I like what you guys are doing. Call Sandra, 855 Big Dino extension 1.
And if you like what I'm doing, I'll leave some links down below on how you can support me. Of course, if you can't financially support my work, just watching the videos, giving them a like, giving them a comment, sharing them if you feel the urge, that means a ton to me, and I greatly appreciate it. Every bit of feedback, every comment, every little bit of support I've gotten means the world to me. And I do thank all of you for watching. I sound like that's the end of the video, and it's not. We've got a lot to go, but I just wanted to get that out of the way now that I really do appreciate you. Thank you. Let's continue.
DrDino.com. Here we go. Whack-a-mole. I forgot. Whack an Atheist is where you wait for an atheist. I enjoy it.
Sorry about those jumps. I should announce when I'm going to skip stuff, but he goes through his whack-a-mole spiel, and I ain't having it. So let's get to it.
So many atheists, so little time. The winner tonight is Gutsick Gibbon.
Now, I want to note that, yet again, he chose a not so flattering point in time to pause the video and take the screenshot, because this is the level of maturity we're dealing with someone who's supposed to be a man of God, a pastor, a teacher, scientist, all this good stuff, 4-time PhD. He's going to use an unflattering frame from a video as a thing. I mean, and a lot of people do that with Kent. It's a thing online. But it's the fact that this is a 71-year-old man who's supposed to be so godly, so good, so nice, pleasant. He's supposed to be a good person. And little childish shit like this happens. That's the problem. Me, AJ, anyone else, we're not putting up the pretense like that. So, we're going to have a little fun with things. I just wanted to point that out. It's a subtle thing, but you'll notice he does that a lot. Him and his cohorts.
I don't know how she selected a name like that.
Now, I like Erica's stuff. I've watched a bit of her content. It's kind of like the Rachel Oates thing. I'm familiar with them, but not super in depth. I definitely like her content. I am curious about the origin of that name, and I don't know if she has a video explaining it. I'm sure she probably has somewhere. I would like to know the origin of it, but what's it matter, Kent? It's an online alias. You can't grasp that concept. That's something that's weird about Kent. He can't get the idea of handles, of any kind of alias, any kind of pseudonym. It eludes him completely. Mind-boggling.
But she has sure picked on me. Epic debate: Gutsick Gibbon versus Kent Hovind. Oh, it's a creationist versus a scientist. So I'm not a scientist?
No, you're not, Kent. You're one of the furthest things away from a scientist.
Erica, who gets to decide? I decide who's a scientist, and you're not one. I am. Okay? There we go.
I love that the stream just messes up right then and there, as if technology itself is saying, "Oh, what you're saying is such a lie, Kent. I'm just gonna break down. It's too much for me." You're not a scientist, Kent. You don't do science. You don't contribute to the scientific community. You don't follow any of the proper procedures. You have your conclusion set before you do any kind of, air quotes, experimentation. It's all bullshit. We've called you out on it just ad infinitum. And you just keep on running this shitty script. These boomer ass jokes. Who decides a scientist? I say you're not a scientist. Haha. Are you 5? 90% of your responses are just nuh-uh. Then you lie.
4 years ago, 250,000 views. False. Does that prove they're related? That's false. That's false. Kent Hovind is a coward. Yeah, she really doesn't pull any punches. That's fine. Okay.
Yeah, just like I don't pull any punches, you stupid piece of shit. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry, I should rephrase that. You are a satchel of excrement, as I just lovingly put it in the Atheist Junior Discord channel. Because, that's a thing, part of why I am so profane, and I made a community post about this. While I am very liberal with my language in real life, when doing these videos, part of it is a level of catharsis, and another part of it is to ensure that it is unlikely that Kent will ever actually be able to do a whack an atheist on my video, because he'll have too hard of a time censoring out me saying fuck, shit, bitch, ass, piss. And of course he would want to criticize me on that, which I don't give a damn, because I'll speak however I wish to speak. And in the joke in the satchel of excrement is that if I want to, I can use pretty flowery language to say the exact same thing. But I instead, because of the psychological effect of profanity, prefer to go that route because it has a nice endorphin release when one does it, when one uses the words. At least when I do. It provides a nice bit of relaxation from the stress of having to hear this nasally voiced bastard lie like he does all the time and think he's the good person. Reminder, he's a convicted felon and convicted spousal abuser. Never forget that he shoved Cindy Lincoln to the ground. And then did the most embarrassing fucking roleplay of it to try to claim from his end what happened. Kent, the court's decided against you. So, you did it.
Versus common designer debate. 11.
And yes, I know there's a bit of a logical fallacy in there. Please don't try to correct me on it. It's just a matter of me being the character that I play in these,
Months ago.
But I mean, you listen to the audio that he's so obsessed over. He did some horrible shit. We're not here to talk about that, though. We're here to talk about this bullshit, as opposed to other bullshit from a few years ago. But just never forget that he did that to someone who's supposed to have been his wife.
Kent Hovind versus Gutsick Gibbon. Yikes. Many.
And we have a preview for the two morons joining Kent on this cavalcade of idiocy. On the left, one dumbass. On the right, another dumbass. So on the screen, you see 3 dumbasses. If I had a camera up there before, but I'm a different kind of dumbass.
Problems with created kinds, debunking young Earth creation. She's determined, folks. It's like that criminal grifter Kent Hovind.
Yes, Kent, you are a criminal, as you have been convicted of crimes, and you are a grifter because you grift. All your lying, you're selling a bullshit for profit. You're a grifter.
Oh, that's not nice, okay?
Yep, it's not nice. That's why she said it. And back to the same thumbnail.
The death of scientific creationism, Gutsick Gibbon. Let's see. A gentle and modern ape. What she says on her own channel. Okay.
Kent, by all taxonomic classifications, humans are ape. Additionally, genetic research and evolutionary records show that we share common ancestors with many of the other, with all the other great apes, some extremely recent in the sense of the chimpanzee and the like. It's a fascinating field of study that if you weren't so bogged down in your fairy tale bullshit, you might enjoy. But it doesn't match with your favorite book of fiction, so you just reject it outright because that's what you do. Because you're Kent Hovind and you're fucking perfect, according to yourself. Narcissistic asshole.
Gutsick Gibbon. Sergio and I were driving today getting some different.
Sergio, that's the douchebag's name. Sergio, you still ain't contacted me. Can't find an email on a YouTube page, can't leave a comment, can't hit me on Twitter or anywhere. I mean, I'm pretty easy to find online. I'm, as one person put it, fucking everywhere. I mean, I ain't on TikTok because I'm not that much of a masochist, but you can find me pretty much anywhere online if you hunt hard enough. Or not even that hard. You can find me. Just saying. Still waiting on your email.
Things in Bruton. I thought, let's see if we can find some of her relatives. How many did you find, Sergio? Probably 15? Yeah. We thought it might cheer her up if some of her family came to see her while she's not feeling well, you know.
Uh, incoming boomer humor warning. This is just as cringy as you may be fearing it is. It's okay. I'll admit it's a little funny, but only on the grounds of that much parody of something tends to elicit some humorous reaction. But it's not. There's no intelligence behind it. It's lowbrow. Well, not lowbrow, but low thought went into this.
Gutsick. We found bellyache baboon. We found miserable monkey.
Now, Miserable Monkey looks pretty happy if you ask me, so you kind of failed with that one, Kent.
Achy tummy ape. We found the sad simian. We found a looking sick lemur.
I don't think Simeon was spelled correctly, but correct me if I'm wrong. I actually kind of suck at spelling.
Out of sorts orangutan. The gap.
Kent, it's orangutan, not orangutan. I heard the slight inflection of a G in there. That alone shows you don't have a fucking clue what you're talking about because you call it a fucking orangutan. It's not orangutan, it's orangutan. Alright? Just tan. No g. No g. Just like there's no g-odd, there's no g in orangutan. Now see, right there, I kind of put it in, and that's probably how people started saying tang, kind of like people saying jaguar instead of jaguar or jaguar. That's how language, that's how dialects form. But if you want to be precise, you want to be more accurate, because a person who's scientifically minded would want to be more accurate, it is orangutan. Yes, I'm focusing on this more than I should. It's just another thing I feel like pointing out.
Gorilla. Bubble guts bonobo. Colicky chimp. Sickly simian. Having heaves hylobates. And morose marmoset. So I hope you're feeling better, Erica. We found your whole family, this family portrait. You can save it and put it on your wall, okay? Heat problem. She says there's a heat problem. Welcome. I'm Erica, current PhD student in biological anthropology. Ooh, wow. Rest in peace. Scientific creationism murdered by the heat problem. Really? Okay.
Yes, Kent, really. The heat problem is a serious problem, and you're going to try to dismiss it with magic. Magic's not real, Kent. Hate to tell you that. There's also no Santa Claus, Easter Bunny, or Jesus.
Does the radioactive decay produce heat? Oh, absolutely. Yep. When things decay, they produce heat. See, We have uranium way down here, which decays slowly into lead over many, many steps. Uranium atomic number 92 will change into lead atomic number 82. And metals have different specific gravities. It's got
Now this, I've noticed this more in Kent's videos as I've been watching them, but like in the time span I've been consuming this content directly to make these videos, that he has more and more meandering bullshit than he used to. I have no idea what the specific gravity of the metals has to do with anything with the heat problem, radioactive decay, etc., beyond uranium turning into lead, thus being a less dense element. Still, I don't know where this goes. He acts like it has something to do, but for the first half of the video that I did my first run on, I didn't see it at all. So I have no idea what the fuck specific gravity has to do with anything in this discussion topic.
Get into this a little bit here. Specific gravity is everything compared to water at 39 degrees. The reason they chose 39 degrees, as water gets colder, it expands.
No, Kent, it contracts. Once water begins to crystallize into ice, then it expands. Because the crystalline lattice structure, there's going to be a lot of empty space between these crystals. This crystalline structure, I should say. That's how ice works. Yes, hence why it floats. You know, it's funny. An ice cube made of heavy water sinks in normal water. Heavy water being water containing deuterium, which is hydrogen that contains a neutron, if memory serves. I'm 99% sure that's the case. While I'm, again, no expert, and my memory is always a little bit shoddy at times, nuclear science is one of the things I really, really like. Like, I'm not a super expert, but this is a subject I'm well versed in, and so long as my memory doesn't just put up a wall and say, nope, you're not getting access to this info, because that's a little quirk of mine. I just forget things sometimes. Yeah, this is going to be a fun one, but let's let him ramble on about specific gravity and then get to his previously seen goons, so we can hear them meander on like idiots.
Which is why ice floats. Which is why the fish can live. Almost designed, you think?
That is a textbook non sequitur. How does ice floating have anything to do with fish living? Like, what the fuck, Kent? What is your point there? Seriously, I want to know how that at all relates to ice. Please explain. Sure, you have a chain of logic somewhere in there, but that chain is probably a rusty piece of shit from 1802.
Let's see. Specific gravity of charcoal is 0.4. Well, since water is 1, anything less than 1 is going to float. Anything more than 1 is going to sink. Chromium, 7.9. Would you think cork would?
So glad someone muted his fucking microphone when that happened, because, man, that would have been unpleasant on the ears. Not like his voice already isn't grating, but,
Float in water or sink? You can tell by the specific gravity. There it is. It's going to float. How about gold? Would that sink or float in water? That's why they can pan for gold, because gold is so heavy. You just wash things around a little bit in water, and the heavy stuff keeps going to the bottom.
Yet more of Kent's meandering bullshit. You've made your point. Whatever point it's supposed to be, get on with it.
Keep washing off the top. Pretty soon you got the gold, if there's any gold to pan for. Let's see. Iron, lead, uranium. Uranium pretty heavy. Uranium decay.
You think about it. I think I figured out why he meanders. Not only is he an out-of-touch fucking boomer, and an old man clearly going senile, but the more he talks about random shit, the more it makes it look like he knows things. So it makes him more of an authority if he can just go off the cuff. Well, not off the cuff, it's all scripted, but if he can just ramble on about stuff. Think that's his tactic.
It goes through a chain. Starts off uranium, goes through a bunch of different steps, 18 steps, and ends up becoming lead.
Yes, and can you explain the alpha, beta, and gamma decay chains? How they work and how that actually happens? No? Can you understand? Can you explain the thorium cycle? This lovely little section right here. And that area too. Notice it hits thorium twice, and then you hit this area where it can keep on being it. And then, you get these little cycles down here, and eventually, yeah, you hit some stable stuff. It just depends. But yeah, Kent, that's really complicated setup right there. Wait, I also got to add in that it's just lines on paper. You accept those lines on paper, but you won't accept others. Funny how that works. But yeah, Kent, that's something pretty special right there. What you're dealing with, and a little facet of science I love, because one of my weird hyper interests happens to be nuclear power. So this is all right up my alley. Again, I'm not hyper textbook read on it. And again, my memory's always a little fuzzy on stuff because it's just the way I am. But this is shit I love. So you're really, really in my zone right now, Kent. Let's see where he takes this.
Lead 206 or lead 208. Okay. Uh, the half life varies greatly. Sometimes it's 1.159 minutes. Sometimes it's 4.5 billion years old.
The 4.5 billion years happening to be the half life of uranium 235, was it? Let me double check. Do my search. 238, excuse me. It was 238 is 4.47 billion years. Uranium 235 is 704 million years.
And part of her argument is that as this decays, it produces heat. Where's all this heat going to go? She says the creationists have a heat problem. Thermal emissions. Yes, uranium decay chain produces heat. Radioactive decay of uranium 238 will produce into various daughter elements. During the process, it releases alpha, beta, gamma radiation and converts into thermal energy.
Kent, pop quiz. What is alpha radiation? What is beta radiation? What is gamma radiation? Please explain without using magic. Down below. Oh, wait. You can't.
Did all the lead come from uranium? Well, bring in the guests here, brother. We got Donnie and Matt going to talk to us. What have you guys, she's done several programs on this so-called heat problem. Donnie, tell us about yourself.
You know what? We're gonna look at that text he put up. Let me go back just a hair. Based on the provided search results, because of course he just uses the results of Google search, the answer is no, not all lead comes from uranium, because of course he highlighted that. Lead is formed through various processes, including 1. Supernovae nucleosynthesis, which creates lead isotopes independently of uranium decay, and 2. Uranium decay. Which, as he highlights, this process only accounts for a portion of naturally occurring lead, the other portion being accounted for by Category 1. Just love it when there's this self-own in his own fucking slides. This happens a lot, and if you look for it, you can find it everywhere. And honestly, it should be noted. It should be screen capped, noted, documented in some capacity with proof. So, we quote, have the receipts of Kent being this just deliberately dishonest, showing the very thing that debunks the point he's trying to make. It's fucking hilarious when it happens. God, you're pathetic, Kent. Also, there you go. There's a screenshot for you. Constipated Kent. In fact, you know what? Screenshot that bitch. That's gonna be the thumbnail. I'm gonna make a custom thumbnail for this, just in honor of how he made fun of Erica earlier. 'Cause she's cool. You suck, Kent.
And the guests, what have you guys, she's done several programs on this so-called heat problem. Donnie, tell us about yourself, where you're at, how people get a hold of you, and what's the heat problem she's talking about?
Well, it's great to be here, Dr. Hovind. Matt and I are over at the Standing for Truth Ministries, and so you can get a hold of us through our website or YouTube channel, standingfortruthministries.com or Standing for Truth on YouTube.
Now, I wanted to let him introduce himself before I start ripping into him. I don't like Donnie at all. 1, Kent is not a doctor. 2, Donnie is so far up Kent Hovind's ass, he might as well be his proctologist. Donnie hosts debates on his channel, his ministry, because everything's a fucking ministry to these people, hosts debates on his channel and always has Kent on a lot. And there's obviously a financial incentive with the super chats and all that jazz. You know, Donnie basically makes money with Kent being there. Which, okay, that's his prerogative as a host of a platform, but he's biased as fuck. So he has people on what amounts to basically a 2-versus-1. Because Donnie will not hold Kent to the same standards, or any creationist on his channel to the same standards that he does the opposition. As in, they can gish gallop all they want, but if the opposition does anything, if we bring up, if an evolutionist brings up what can be seen as more than one topic, as soon as Kent complains about it, Donnie will try to push things back. But Kent can just meander on about whatever the fuck he wants. Kent can overtalk people. Kent can be rude. He can be a prick to people, but people can't counter him on it. It's one-sided. And that's part of why I won't debate Kent. I don't want to debate him because I'm not going to acknowledge any kind of authority in Donnie's shitty channel. I don't like him. I don't think he's a good moderator. I think he's as full of shit as Kent is. Fuck him. I don't know anything about this Matt guy, but if he's in league with Donnie and Ken Hovind, fuck him too. Yeah, strong words. That's why I used them.
Now, Brother Kent, the real heat problem comes from Revelation 20, verse 15. And whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. So the real heat.
Oh, look at Kent grinning. He loves thinking about people being eternally tortured. You know, that's Christian sex fuel right there. Oh, sinners are getting tortured. Oh, I'm gonna come. Fuck y'all. Y'all are monsters. Just the very concept is just madness. We're not even gonna get into the details, but fuck you. Fuck your holy book. Fuck your hell concept. Fuck your God for allowing such to exist, for sending people there. Y'all claim you send yourself, but that's not how that works. Logistically, that is not how it works. But you can't have God be the bad guy, even though it's one of the most horrible creatures in fiction. Up yours. Fucking posthumous threat. You're gonna burn if you don't believe me. Fuck you.
Problem, brothers, for those who don't believe on the Lord Jesus Christ. Isn't that right?
Also, if I may rant for a short bit, fucking hate the language that hyper-religious people use. How the fuck do you believe on something? Does it make sense to me? And I don't know, language changes. I'm pro-language changing in some ways, and I fight against it in other ways. But no one talks like that. You're in the year 2024. Fucking talk like you're in the 2024. Even about this subject, you don't have to talk like it's fucking 1611. Oh, wait, you do, because you all worship a stupid-ass book written by some self-righteous fuck in 1611. Remember, they don't worship the Bible. Or they don't worship God. They don't worship Jesus. They worship lines on paper from 1611, written by some king named James. Fuck you, King James. Piss on your grave if I could.
It's common. I hate that too. I'd like to get her converted before then.
Amen.
Yeah, sorry, I have strong feelings, but you have to understand I'm not just atheist. I'm at a point in my life where I'm actively anti-theist. It's complicated, but it suffices to say you can class me in that group. I'm very, very, very against religion. So, at least this kind of religion, theistic religion, Christianity and all this kind of shit. There's philosophies that can be classified as religions that I am supportive of. But that's a different discussion. Suffice it to say, I think everyone watching this far will understand what I'm saying and where I'm coming from. Unless you're a creationist watching this, in which case, glad you're still here. Because I'm surprised you've got that kind of fortitude. Definitely look up the actual science on this stuff. Now, I know I'm probably talking to nobody at this stage. No creationists, I mean, but I just thought I'd leave it in there. And by the way, shout out to those of you still watching, because you're fucking awesome. Let's continue.
He that winneth souls is wise. Matt.
Yep. The guy who brings, more people into our cult is definitely the good person. There's a Rick and Morty line from an earlier episode. God is a lie. We made him up for money.
I want to hand it to you because I want to ask you a question because, and if you agree with me, then we'll go with this. It's going to come down to largely, was there accelerated nuclear decay during the flood? Were decay rates sped up significantly, or did God create the original rocks with a mix of atoms, uranium and lead, for example? So, Matt, can you speak to that a little bit?
So, was it magic or magic? Have the laws of physics been bent in ways that would destroy the universe? Or was everything just made to look weird and all crazy because that's just the way Magic Sky Daddy decided to do it? Because, the reality we observe can't possibly be all there actually is. Can't be what it actually is. There's gotta be magic. Gotta be.
Tell us why that's important.
Sure. Yeah. Basically, we three here together are answering a problem that falls under a model called catastrophic plate tectonics for answers in Genesis. This is their go to. Kent actually has his own model, and the Hovind theory. He doesn't even agree.
Yeah, the Hovind theory. A magnetic canopy of ice surrounding the planet. Somehow not being collapsed by gravity, mind you, because it's going to be stationary over the poles as it rotates around. But it's also magnetic, so it gets held up, and it's fucking mental. If you're not aware of the Hovind theory, read up on it, watch a video on it or something. It is fucking madness. Like it's 2 stages above Flat Earther, but let me tell you, those 2 stages are not much of an advancement. Kent is honestly Flat Earth levels of stupid.
With the catastrophic plate tectonics theory.
Because remember, we all know the Earth is actually shaped like a donut. Want to know more? Subscribe to my newsletter. I'm kidding, but just gotta be funny there. Try to alleviate, because I know I got a long way to go in this bullshit.
So why is he here defending them? Because that's what we do. We are here to answer questions for Christians that do follow these different models. So we're here to give everybody answers to things that the critics are saying these are unsolvable riddles. So catastrophic plate tectonics was by John Baumgartner, and he formulated this idea by coming up with this concept that when we look inside of zircon crystals, we find lots of lead, which comes through the decay chain, which means that it's old. And we also find lots of helium, which is a byproduct also of the decay rate. And there's too much of it, which means it's young. So how can you have both something old and something young at the same time? Well, he proposed that there must have been accelerated nuclear decay during the flood of about 600 million years.
Now, I'm not familiar offhand with the response, but I know this whole zircon, helium, uranium, lead thing has been addressed. I'm certain, given that Kent brings up that it's in one of his videos, that R and Raw has probably covered it amongst others. So definitely look that up. Suffices to say, it's debunked bullshit, I'm certain.
Therefore, that had to have happened during that 1 year process. However, that's enough heat to melt the Earth 5 times over again. So what's going on? How can we answer that?
See, so even other creationists, once they actually look at things and try to come up with something, they run into problems. Because, amazingly, other creationists still lie a lot, but don't lie as much as you three do. Because y'all are some extreme fuckers when it comes to creationism.
Well, there's been a lot of ideas that have been proposed, but we're going to go over those today.
Matt, I appreciate that. And so, Kent, I'd be curious as to your thoughts, because I think this largely comes down to that question. And I'm not sure if Joseph can share my screen.
There we go.
But I would propose that the invention of radioactivity.
I love this. Donnie does this from time to time. He uses some weird vernacular when has a really odd way of talking. And this coming from a guy who has a very odd way of talking. I mean, how often do you hear the word vernacular? It's this weird way of describing things. And saying radioactivity was invented is just weird, because if it's some quality that God intentionally put into his creation, it wasn't an invention, it's an attribute, like him toggling a switch, toggling like a selection box on a menu. it certainly isn't an invention of mankind. It isn't like we invented radioactivity. We discovered this property of various, as Kyle Hill puts it, spicy rocks. So it's not an invention, and that's just weird to say. Of course, these are people who believe in dirt men and rib women, so.
And I made some notes here, was likely a deep rock phenomenon. Its invention was to keep the earth warm. The heat would have kept the temperature of the earth stable during not only the creation week, but in the pre-flood world. And I think people overlook the usefulness overall of radioactivity. And then it's only after the flood, we read in Genesis, when the fountains of the great deep break open, and then radioactivity is actually brought up to the surface to become a threat to us. And so if God created, as we know from Genesis, the account of origins, if God created a variety of animals and plants, he would have created humans and animals with design diversity, the amazing ability to adapt and to vary. Then God could have created a variety of uranium and lead atoms. Why wouldn't he is the question.
So they've decided that Sky Daddy decided to make things really, really complicated for no fucking reason. Because again, all these ideas they say are like, oh, it's a genius idea, keep the earth warm, do this, do that. It could be so much simpler. It could be so much more straightforward. It could just be the way it is. And it's not. It's a particular way that matches what scientists describe things as. One, no need reason to invoke the supernatural, and two, all natural processes that are consistent, predictable, testable. They work. That's part of what math is used for. When you get into the complex stuff, to describe these attributes in a quanta that works, that can be applied, and they're just like, oh, it's all magic and deity made it that way for reasons we can't understand, but it's super cool, isn't it? It's like, it's cool the universe exists. I don't think your fairy tale of it being magically created by some weird space wizard, infinite space wizard who nothing had to create them, but you always get mad when we plead that, and it's like, but it's just, I can't wrap my head around this. I truly can't. There has to be something particularly different about the minds of people like this to cause them to truly believe this kind of insanity that deeply. Or they're just full of shit and doing it for money. It's got to be one or the other.
So I'm not completely sold on the idea that we need accelerated decay of about 1 billion times at the flood. Dr. Hovind, what are your thoughts?
Well, yeah,
Kent isn't a doctor. Get out of his asshole. Quit tickling his prostate. Get a fucking clue, Donnie.
I agree. I think I appreciate Dr. Baumgardner and everybody is attempting to answer legitimate questions. Would this produce heat problem? Of course, they're assuming that the rate of decays remain the same, which we know it does not.
Bullshit, Kent. Decay rates are the same because these are fundamental properties based on, or these are properties based on the fundamental nature of physics, of these elements, of atoms at that size. Because it's generally the size of an atom is when you start getting the radioactive ones. Certain islands of stability that are extremely common in lighter elements, but start becoming more scarce as you get to the heavier elements. That's a fascinating study in its own right. Look up the island of stability concept. It's pretty wild. There's magic numbers for the numbers of neutrons and protons in nuclei. It is some cool shit. And using some of the logic, we can predict the properties of some elements that so far haven't been synthesized, because naturally occurring elements to any appreciable and detectable degree stop at a reasonable point, but we've been able to synthesize much further, which is something we'll potentially get into here in a bit.
They're assuming that we know how much was in those rocks when it started. There's no way to know that. I covered.
Now, again, radiometric dating, there's multiple forms of it, versions of it. Kent's going to bring up carbon dating because that's the only one creationists ever know to any degree. Again, one of those things that is more complex than I can retain the exact details of, but it suffices to say that any kind of radiometric dating method out there is going to be explained in incredible detail via sources that can be found by even a cursory lookup online. Of course, I always say check Wikipedia. Definitely look at the sources and the citations to verify things. But generally, barring little issues here and there, which again, this is why you go to multiple sources and double check things, a Wikipedia article will provide reasonably good information, especially the better maintained ones. You know, you have to use your due diligences with any source of information, especially one that can be openly edited. But it's like trusting open source software, which at some level every one of us does every day. Someone is checking this stuff, someone is doing quality control, and it kind of works itself out. Just saying. Wikipedia isn't bad. It's just you have to, you know, go a little further than that. But a cursory overall overview, definitely.
For that on my video 7 about carbon dating, with the candle analogy. There's no way to tell the age.
Your candle analogy sucks because there's plenty of ways to, as tons of people have already explained to you. But of course, you don't listen to any feedback. You just, do your same shit over and over. You find a candle burning. How long has it been burning? You can't find out, Hovind.
Of anything with radioactive decay. See, uranium is a useful product to have. So is lead. They're assuming that all the lead came from uranium decay. What if God created it already with half lead, half uranium?
Right.
They're both useful.
Well, that's just stupid.
Not all lead isotopes are produced solely.
Also, the thing he showed earlier depicted that it's, in fact, is that the same, is he still on the same page? Yeah. It still says the nucleosynthesis and the like.
Through uranium decay. Let's see. Zircon, a mineral used for uranium-lead dating, is a chemical.
See, he just skips it. He just straight skips it. It's right there. Literally, using a page that explains the problem he claims exists, he ignores it because that's his MO. And he's so blatant about it, like no one's going to notice. God, you're pathetic, Kent.
Structure that likes uranium and hates lead, indicating uranium and lead have distinct origins. Wow, who would know? Just type it in. Google it. In summary, while uranium decay contributes to the formation of lead, it is not the sole source of all the lead. So they start with the assumption all this heat is a problem because it all came from uranium decaying to lead, or because the continents are moving. They've got several different problems she brings up here. Let's see. Hydrogen, origin of the Big Bang. Initially, the universe was a hot plasma, dense plasma, temperature too high for electrons to remain bound to atoms.
And now we're suddenly in the Big Bang because Kent decided that's where we're going to go. This goes somewhere. Let's find out where.
This period is known as the quark epoch. It lasted until the universe cooled enough to combine into protons and neutrons. That was about 1 or 2 seconds after the Big Bang. Now, who's there watching this? I'd like to know that, okay?
We can do the math and work backwards. And at a point, you start reaching temperatures that are absolutely ludicrous. It's not hard. Again, all the information is out there, Kent, if you'd actually look up anything.
As the universe continued to expand and cool, see, as it expands, it cools. By the way, if the Earth's atmosphere had it compressed to the Earth, like the Bible clearly teaches there was water above the firmament, then when the canopy, when the fountains of the deep broke open, the canopy would get shattered, like my little globe here, and it would let the atmosphere expand from 10 miles out to the current, 40 miles or so.
Yeah, that's not how any of that worked, though. It's not. I mean, that's the most insane thing you say. Maybe, that I'm aware of. I'm sure you believe some even more crazy shit, but that Hovind theory, that is so totally fucking ridiculous. I can't believe you actually think it makes any sense at all. Gravity, you fucking moron. Gravity. Have you ever heard of gravity? Oh, right, you say ice is magnetic and diamagnetic and all kinds of weird shit. It's insane.
That would absorb an enormous amount of heat. Get a can of hairspray and hold the button down. You'll get cold in your hand.
Have you done the math on how much heat the atmosphere expanding would take in? Have you done that? Have you compensated for the period where the heat hasn't been generated yet, and thus the expanding atmosphere would become a quick freeze? Have you ever thought about that? Killing everything on the planet? Because if it can absorb that much heat, then it would have gotten really fucking cold when it expanded from 10 miles to however much. And I'm sure someone far more skilled than me can calculate the temperature difference if the atmosphere went from a stable temperature gradient of, whatever value is the average, or would be a reasonable average, to what it would be if it expanded to its current density over a small period of time, how much it would cool. And I guarantee it'd be a fucking ice age. Like the worst one ever. Because again, if it can absorb that much heat that 5 billion years basically of nuclear decay would generate, then you're going to have some very, very, very cold air. Flash freeze the whole fucking planet, baby.
So during this period, only hydrogen and helium were formed. So this is what they're teaching. It wasn't until much later, 380,000 years after the Big Bang, that they began to make protons and forming hydrogen.
Yep, the recombination epoch, one of the coolest moments in all of history, where that's what the cosmic microwave background radiation is. It shows the effectively the texture and the density of the universe at that moment when it finally became transparent as opposed to opaque, transparent to various forms of radiation, light, etc. Fascinating. Just fascinating thought that it's the afterglow, that it's still out there, still you can see it. Well, we can't see it, but it can be detected, that it's all around us constantly. I fucking love that. But it's nothing to you. This is all just lies. So weird. So weird how I feel an absolute love, a magic, metaphorical magic about the universe, its origins, the actual science, what the actual math, what the actual research says. You think it's all bullshit and you gotta go to your favorite poorly written fairy tale, a 1611 edition of your favorite poorly written fairy tale. It's sad. Can't just appreciate everything for what it is.
So here we have, they're claiming the Big Bang produced hydrogen and helium. Well, how do you get the higher elements?
Nuclear fusion, my friend. Nuclear fusion. I know he's going to address this because I've still seen up to this part of the video, but I just wanted to preempt him. Nuclear fusion's fucking awesome. Stellar fusion, I should say. Stellar fusion. Fucking awesome.
They say fusion. Well, you can't fuse past iron.
You can easily fuse past iron. The problem is that iron takes more energy to fuse to get iron than it releases in the reaction, in the actual process. All the other lighter elements over here, they well shit, you can barely see my mouse. They release more energy during fusion than it takes for them to fuse. Iron's the point where you get where it takes more energy, thus it's a dead end for normal stellar processes. But when you get bigger stars, they tend to go out with a bit of a bang, mainly because once they reach the point of fusing into iron, which most stars don't reach that point. Once they do, it's an immediate just death shot right to the core of the star. Collapses at some reasonable percentage of the speed of light, and in that moment where all the outer material finally crashes into the core, you get one hell of a temperature spike, one hell of a pressure spike, and you get a fuck ton of all these pretty heavy elements over here. Come on. There we go. Sorry, I'm having tech difficulties here. I'm trying to, point out all the heavy elements. Whatever. Y'all know how to read the periodic table. Who am I fooling? You're smart people. And that's where they come from. You get that. You also get neutron stars colliding into each other. Sometimes two neutron stars will be orbiting, and one will suck material off the other and blow. That sounded horribly wrong, but that's honestly what happens. It'll start pulling matter from a companion star, neutron star that's orbited by a normal star. That'll happen. Black holes merging. Anywhere you can get this material getting into these moments of extreme temperature, of extreme pressure, far beyond normal stellar cores, and it can manage to be ejected in some way. You're gonna get the heavier elements. It's amazing and terrifying to think of. Absolutely beautiful, but also one of the most energetic things to happen in the universe. Period. And it just goes on like normal all the time, somewhere in the universe. I love it.
Okay. Plus, you want to get clear up to lead. You want to make lead out of hydrogen gas and clear up to uranium. Uranium is decaying into.
We can make heavier elements in the lab, no problem, by using particle accelerators. That's how we synthesize some elements. Some lower level elements, mind you, aren't natural. They have to be synthesized or otherwise detected via potentially, decay chains will give us some elements we hadn't found before, but some elements gotta be smashed together to get a hold of them. And that's the way most, everything past the naturally occurring elements is. I mean, we don't know how far it goes. We don't know where exactly it stops, but we know the limit of what we found naturally, but we've sure as hell made elements past that. So the science works because we've demonstrated it working. When you do the math, there's no reason that a star collapsing, two stars merging, anything of the sort, can't cause this kind of stellar nucleosynthesis. It's there. This can't get any more science, air quotes, than what you claim science is, Kent. So, you're done. The elements aren't a problem.
To lead. This is a backwards process to what they need. Where's the evidence of any animals getting
Animals. He stops himself. Says animals again.
heavier and combining like that?
And I'm not going to make a joke about him saying animals getting heavy and combining. It's too easy. That's too easy of a joke even for me.
I mean, where? You say, what happens in stars, neutron stars? Well, then where did the star come from? You got
Non sequitur. Star already exists. And the star is formed because gravity, you fucking moron. Have you ever heard of gravity? Gravity. The distribution of matter in the early universe wasn't even. There were density aberrations. We can see those in the cosmic microwave background. And naturally, gases gathered together, stars would form, whole galaxies would form. Pure hydrogen population 3 stars. Then when they died, ejected their material and whatever heavier elements they'd have done, we got population 2, and then those also died, and we got population 1, which is stars like our sun. It's all well understood. You can tell from the metallosity of the star. How do we tell that? From its light spectra. You measure that certain ways, you start getting patterns that are indicative of particular elements. Obviously, we mostly see hydrogen, but in younger stars made of more recycled material, we see heavier elements.
a chicken and egg problem. So the Big Bang made hydrogen and helium, according to their ridiculous theory.
God made hydrogen and helium in the world and plants before light, according to their ridiculous theory. See how easy it is to do, Kent? This is why you don't have any respect. Because you're such a belligerent fuck in the way you talk about stuff. And I get you don't like what we have to say, what science actually says. I get that. But you're supposed to be the better person. You're supposed to be the good person, the godly person. And you're a jerk ass. At least I'm playing a character. You're an actual spiteful fuck.
With great heat and pressure, these can be fused into higher elements. You cannot fuse past iron.
Yes, you can. Already explained where uranium comes from.
Where did uranium-92 come from? We know uranium decays to lead. That's the opposite of going higher. It's decaying.
Yeah. Nuclear reactions are like that. Nuclear processes can be pretty wild. You fuse some stuff together, you get heavier elements. Elements have a fission event, they decay into lighter elements. That's how it works. It's like silly putty. You can cut bits of silly putty off, you can add it in there. I mean, yeah, you still wind up with silly putty, so the analogy breaks down there, but it's not like this is a one-way street, Kent. I mean, in theory, you could take uranium, slam another element. In fact, that is what you do. You take uranium, you slam other elements into it, and you get plutonium. Or you get the enriched isotopes of uranium. That is literally how plutonium is made. Come on, Kent. You can't be this dense. You have to be deliberately full of shit. World War fucking II, we were making plutonium. We understood this. And I'm not knocking people in World War II, I'm just saying, this was understood shit before you were born. You talk about how good your daddy was, how survivors platoon in World War II. How about you research something else in World War II, like the fucking Manhattan Project? Building M25, Oak Ridge, Tennessee. Fuck yeah, Tennessee helped make the atomic fucking bomb. Fucking love that about this state. I mean, it's kind of a shitty state otherwise, but, this is America currently. It's all, a little rough, the way things are. We're not going to get into politics, but suffice it to say, I really, really love that little fact about Tennessee. We helped make the bomb. Go USA.
We do not know that all lead came from uranium decay.
The very sources you cited explicitly state that stellar nucleosynthesis was the other process, something that you completely ignored. Because you're not going to acknowledge that the document says that. The same source you use to discredit, the heat decay problem, the uranium, the same process you use to sorry, I'm getting flustered here. The same source you use to try to debunk the actual science contains the debunking of your own bullshit. It's incredible. You had to have seen that. You dishonest fuck.
Is it possible that the elements were created pretty much as they are to sustain life in a perfect creation? USEP.
Creation ain't perfect. Everything's fucked, Kent. Not a damn thing points towards creation. And if it was created, it's a real shitty creator. Fucking terrible job.
EPA says lead is naturally present in all soils, typically 15 to 40 parts per million.
This just in, Kent Hovind thinks, bringing up the fact that elements are all through the planet, that stuff is gonna be mixed up because, that's just how it is somehow a point. I don't know where he's going with this at all. I never know where he's going with half this shit. Usually surprises me where he winds up. Sometimes I can predict it. Sometimes it's just the ramblings of an old fucking psychopath. Sociopath, whatever path. No path. Cult leader in rural Alabama. Rural Alabama. I said that funny. Glad I could have a laugh. Let's continue.
Okay? Pollution can increase soil lead levels to higher than that, okay? Is based on the search, the 0.0013% of the Earth's...
I get it. What I'm trying to say is that Ken Hovind seems to be surprised that a planet made of an aggregate of materials that are the ejecta from a dying star, or a dead star, planetary nebula that eventually made the sun, our planet, all the other planets out there, dwarf planets included. Shout out to Pluto and Eris and Sirius and however many other dwarf planets we got orbiting the sun. I forgot the current count, but we got a lot of stuff in our solar system. Most of it frozen, but some of it pretty not pretty cool, pretty hot. Mercury's hot. Hovind, Mercury's hot. Venus is hot too. Hovind. Point is that planets made of an aggregate of stellar ejecta material would somehow contain a healthy mix of various elements throughout all the material. That it wouldn't just be, solid chunks of this, that, and the other.
Crust is lead. There's a lot of lead in the world.
What's your point?
Bazillions of tons of it here.
That's not an actual number, Kent.
Let's see.
Again, this is a serious science teacher. This is supposed to be someone who loves science, and he's gonna, be hyperbolic at say, bazillion. Just the little things. That's what you gotta look for with Hovind, is the little things, and you gotta call them out. Because when you add it up, it shows that he's a complete fuckwit. He lies about everything. He doesn't talk like any kind of actual authority on anything but his own bullshit. Man probably sniffs his own farts.
How about uranium? How much uranium is in the world right now? The Earth's crust contains 65 trillion tons of uranium. Maybe God made both of them as useful products for things in the world. Okay.
Yeah, demonstrate your God, dumbass.
2.2 to 4 parts per million, by some references, is how much uranium. So I think the atheists have a heat problem now, and they're really going to have a heat problem later.
I'm going to put out the same threat that Donnie did earlier because, if you can't get them with the carrot, you get them with the stick. Because, all loving deity punishes people with permanent torture for infinite torture for finite crimes. That's justice. Fucking monster. You, God, same thing. Monsters.
When they die. I'd like to ask Erica, you're welcome to call in or comment, Erica. Where did all the heat energy come from?
Irrelevant.
What's the total energy produced by all the stars in the universe?
What kind of question is that? I mean, the value would effectively be the energy content of the universe in all practicality. Because the amount of quote-unquote energy, heat energy, and planets and the like that isn't directly stellar related, that's a side effect of like nuclear decay and stuff, is minuscule compared to that much caused by stellar fusion. So if it's on a scale of 0 to 1, we want to use those kinds of scales from absolutely none to absolutely all. It's like 0.999. So there's your answer.
That's a whole lot of heat, not just the Earth, I mean the whole universe. You think all that came from a dot smaller than an atom?
It's not how cosmic inflation is. It's not what the Big Bang is. You've been corrected on this. God, you're dumb, Kent.
How hot was that dot?
The dot, if we be gracious enough to grant you that, would be 1 on this 0 to 1 scale. It would be infinitely hot if it was possible to measure such a temperature, which of course it's not. Let's not get into the fact you'd have to be outside the universe somehow measuring the universe with the equipment that wouldn't be destroyed by the infinite measure of the universe, and it just becomes completely complicated and is a totally nonsensical thing. I mean, these are questions a 4-year-old would ask if they somehow could understand the nuances of quantum physics but didn't actually understand the points being made. This is the kind of stuff they'd ask, I feel like.
Hey, that rhymes. I'm the poet that don't know it, but my feet show it. They're Longfellows. Okay, let's see. Where did uranium come from?
Stellar nucleosynthesis in supernovae and other similar high-energy events. Done. Check, please.
Erica, did it come from hydrogen gas from a Big Bang? Why do we only see elements decaying?
Because generally fusion only happens, aside from those times we tested atomic weaponry that included a fusion stage. Castle Bravo, Tsar Bomba, Ivy Mike, that's another thing I love is the look of a nuclear explosion, nuclear test. I mean, horrible weapons, and I'm glad we don't fire them anymore, but I kind of wonder what current documentation of a nuclear test, what it would look like, what we would really see, what kind of measurements we could get, drones and everything. It'd be cool, just the one, but I there's a million and one reasons not to. It's just if it was an ideal situation. That being said, aside from those fusion events where we did fuse some elements together, everything happens in stars, Kent, and it's a little hard to just aim a telescope at a star and just look at 2 individual atoms. I guess you probably think they get married and have kids because you think everything does. You think amoeba do. Watch 2 atoms fuse like that. It's a little difficult to do, but particle accelerators, we make it happen. We can see it happen. We see fusion. We can measure fusion. We can test fusion. We can do fusion. Checkmate, motherfucker.
That's the opposite of what you need for your religion.
It's not a religion.
If the Earth is as old as you dream, why are there any radioactive elements left?
Let's see. Not only are the radioactive decay chains not explicitly decay, I mentioned the thorium cycle earlier, where in theory you could have a sort of self-sustaining reaction of elements cycling through the thorium chain. Also, you mentioned earlier half-lives being up to the age of the Earth, meaning that at most half of the element might have decayed. Which is partly why we generally find uranium and the like in lead ore, because the chunks of uranium would have, over the past 4.5 billion years plus, would have decayed a lot into uranium or into lead from uranium. Again, that's not the only source of lead. There's plenty of lead that wasn't originally uranium from stellar nucleosynthesis, because it's going to be an element made just like every other element made through the death of stars and those high energy processes. I feel I have to repeat this because Kent has the memory of a goldfish. I know that's not a true thing. Goldfish memory is not the 6 seconds everyone thinks, but you get the analogy. You get the point. I feel like I have to correct myself with everything because creationists take everything literally. Point is, there is no issue with radioactive material on Earth. It's all explained well, consistently, and that's the other key thing, is that all of the properties governing this are consistent. They don't magically change like you want to assert they do.
Should have all decayed. Shouldn't be any of them.
Right.
This entire heat problem she focuses on is only to try to rescue the billions of years she needs.
It's not to try to rescue the billions of years we need, it's yet another piece of evidence demonstrating explicitly, or the result of evidence pointing explicitly to the idea and fact that the world is 4.5 billion years old in a 13.7 some odd billion year old universe. Maybe 13.3 now, I'm not entirely sure, but it's around 13.5 billion years. It's pretty old. It's almost as old as you, Kent.
For the rest of her stupid evolution religion.
The rest of your stupid Christianity religion. Young Earth Christian religion. Hovind. See, Kent, I can do it too. And I'll do it all day long, especially if it pisses you off. I'd love to do it to your face, but I don't want to be in the same room as you. Because honestly, I'm afraid you'll attack me. Because you'll get pissed at something I'll say, because you won't have a comeback. Or you'll just think I'm too damn rude. Or you'll be mad at the words I use. Buckle up, Buttercup. You give a damn about me? You actually care? Get your stupid little friends to actually send an email. Put up or shut up, Kent. And again, it's going to be on my terms, not yours. Fuck your terms. And if that's not good enough for you, peace out, bitch.
A lot of problem in her mind. She believes the continents have been moving over billions of years. I've covered that many times in my seminar.
Yeah, your seminar that no one fucking watches. No one with any sense does, unless they want to rip into it. Your seminar sucks. It's boring. You're boring.
The Earth is cracked up, but there is not proof the continents are moving around like they say.
Yeah, there is. We fucking measure it. We have the technology. We literally measure the yearly continental drift. It's well documented. You just make up shit, Kent. You just lie. Just how many lies can you tell in a day? It's like you play a game where you see how many you can tell in a day and try to beat that record the next day. Last I checked, lying was considered by many to be a sin. It's at least not a good thing to do, but you're lying for Jesus, so it's okay. Oh, no, excuse me. You're lying for a book from 1611. King James Bible, the lines on paper are my God. Hovind worships the Bible. Not to Jesus, but the Bible.
Stupid Pangea theory. Did you know, Donnie, you can arrange all the continents and make a chicken? Did you see that one? That's proof of something to somebody somewhere. Anyway, okay, so you mentioned about the heat in the core of the Earth. What was that you said before we started the program, Donnie?
Yes. Great.
The molten iron core of the planet that, gives us our magnetic field. Our magnetic field that the planet, needs. Well, life is grateful that the planet has to, keep the solar wind at bay so that the atmosphere doesn't get stripped and Earth doesn't wind up like Mars. You know, sad Mars is a dead planet. It doesn't have an active core, so it has a minimal magnetic field and thus can't repel the solar wind, and so it stripped its atmosphere. It gets almost warm enough to be comfortable on Mars. The equator, during the right times, I think it gets up to like 40 or 50 degrees Fahrenheit. It gets a little, comfortably toasty. Most of the time, pretty fucking cold, though. Just saying.
Great points, Joseph. I'll share my screen again. And so this goes back to the question, I think we thoroughly addressed it, is do we require accelerated nuclear decay? Because Erica would argue that this is your greatest source of heat and radiation that would supposedly melt the earth, destroy the earth, vaporize the ocean, kill Noah and Noah's family, so on and so forth. So if the answer is no, then this gets rid of the primary source of heat and radiation that skeptics of young earth creation look to. And so now, without the heat, the tremendous amount of heat from the accelerated decay during the flood, we can look.
I mean, you see what he did right there, right? They're just like, that's not a thing. That's not how this works. Just hand wave it away. It's so fucking pathetic. Like, I mean, I know that's what they're gonna do, but when you hear it, when you see it, it's just like, you can't be serious. You fucking clowns.
To a number of great plausible solutions. Can't you talked about one a little bit earlier with the expanding atmosphere, that there'd be a canceling out effect there.
Yes, the expanding atmosphere would be perfectly timed with all this heat release from whatever case. It wouldn't freeze the planet, and it'd come at just the right time, so that also the radioactive heat apocalypse wouldn't melt everything after it's frozen. No, it's all just perfectly coincidentally timed by a deity that's still trying to kill everything on the planet. That would be a great way to do it. Of course, if your deity was smart, they could also just reset things and make it like that world never happened. But no, I mean, it's just, the Bible's fucking stupid.
Matt, as you know, so I listened to Erica's video, her entire video, and her
Did you though? Did you?
follow-up argument, or her objection to what we're saying, that if God would have created a variety of atoms, that there's a level of usefulness to them, which I think we've demonstrated that there certainly is. She'll say, well, then once the flood layers form and these layers are mixed and that radioactivity comes to the forefront, then there shouldn't be the types of ratios that we see, where the bottom rocks are older than the rocks you'd find at the top. And so she argues for the law of superposition, and she essentially asserts that should not be the case if the originally created rocks had those ratios. And so, Matt, I know you've done some.
I mean, makes sense to me. But, you guys are just going to hand wave shit away. Time to see what Matt says, because, I really trust what Matt has to say.
Some study on this. You've also written a book. What would be
Ooh, Matt wrote a book. Who gives a shit?
a good response to that challenge or follow-up from Erica?
Yeah, if possible, let me share a screen real quick, and let's see if you guys, yes, perfect. Okay, if you guys see this chart, it shows the atomic mass of the different chemical elements, with uranium being the heaviest, and followed by thorium, going all the way up to potassium and argon. And if you were to think during the flood, if there were radioactive elements like these floating around, and the rocks themselves are now forming at the end of the flood as these things settle, what would we expect to find based on that? Well, we would expect to find exactly what we do find in all of these different types of rocks that have been tested, where
I'll give this guy credit. At least he called it the Grand Canyon instead of Grand Canyon.
finding discontinuity in the rocks rather than finding them in the same level. So what I mean by that is, when you look at these studies, we found that the color of each data point represents the atomic weight of each parent isotope, as given.
I feel like he's just going to ramble for a while on stuff that in the end is total bullshit. It suffices to say that most of the heavy elements on Earth, and I'm talking the whole planet, are in the mantle and in the core. because they are so heavy and they did sink. But the Earth has been geologically active. You have a lot of material coming up from the mantle. Of course, there was the large amount of time where the planet was a molten mess. Not with, adding in when Thea hit Earth and helped form the moon. That definitely kept the temperatures going for probably longer than they would have had the event not happened. It measuring just levels in the on the surface soil and in rocks going down a little ways, it really doesn't match what the whole planet is. I mean, I don't know where he's going with this. Excuse me, I had to yawn there. I don't know where he's going with this, but I feel like it just goes nowhere, and I'm immediately bored just by hearing him talk about it. Like, there's no presentation here. There's no nothing. I mean, come on, at least be entertaining. At least Kent's dumbass is sort of entertaining.
By the lengths of each of the strands. So when we look at this scientific study, we actually find that the potassium and thorium and uranium, which are the heaviest, sink down to the bottom, and the lighter elements are up near the top. Well, that's exactly what we see on Earth. So it's
Okay, what is this bottom and top you speak of? What are we talking about? This what?
obvious why we would find rocks that are deeper and lower in the ground would be older than the ones above it, are for that very reason. That so when we look for this heavier elements, we're going to find that they sink into rocks at a different rate. Now, is that
I mean, apologize, had to yawn again. I mean, yeah, but you're just measuring surface sediments. I don't see where you're going with this, man.
the case with every type of rock? No, because some rocks would solidify much faster than others, and it would trap them before they had a chance to disperse. So this would require some accelerated nuclear decay, but in far from 600 million years.
Does not follow. Like, this is terrible. I can make sense of some abstract shit, but this just I can't understand where this is possibly going at all. Just what is this data? What is this? Is this a shit post? This looks like a shit post.
We're talking about tens of thousands of years of accelerated nuclear decay would do this. And it's not really a big of a problem anymore. And it's just kind of nice to see that this distribution that we see is what we find in scientific studies that was actually first found by the Young Earth Creation Rate team. So who's actually doing the science and who's better at explaining what we see based on age in these rocks?
I don't know if you can see it since I have things in a window, but this guy puts his presentations on his desktop. Good for him. Also, he apparently views PNGs in his web browser. So, when you let these little slips of how you compute, how you use devices. Sorry, I had to yawn again. I'm getting tired. When you let those slip out, I'm gonna look at them because it gives me an idea on how you think. And I mean, my desktop's full of crap. Don't get me wrong. Both my physical desktop and my computer's desktop. But it's just an interesting look at how he thinks, how he organizes stuff, and how he uses his computer. Also, I don't see the point in this study still. I just. I Sorry, yawned again. It just doesn't make sense to me. That's all. It was not explained well. Sorry, dude.
And here's another unique thing. Did you know when we look at maps, we can find Precambrian rock that's exposed right next to other types of rock? And
Yes, because of erosion.
I did a real quick overlay of where we find the oldest fossils. And look at that. They're in the regions where the oldest rock is penetrating up out of the ground, and fossils are found next to these layers. So they're dated as
Fossilization, which is a process that takes a long time and is the permineralization of bone remains, or imprintations for some creatures. you find those fossils where old layers of the earth are exposed. Interesting. It's almost as if that makes complete sense that you're going to find older material, the fossils, which take time to do, so thus are old, in areas that are old. This isn't the wind you think it is, buddy.
Is older based on that assumption alone, that the layers date the fossils. So I find that really interesting. So when we cross them over, I tried to do as good of a job as I could. I'll zoom in here, and you can see that the oldest fossils are in Africa. And if you look at the original map, we can see the Precambrian exposed rock is right in that same region where we're finding the oldest fossils.
Oh, right. You're trying to say this is Precambrian. I forgot that little facet. I'd rather go to sleep than continue doing this, but we're going to keep going. It suffices to say, though, that I would look into this more if I gave that much of a fuck. But honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if some part of this is a load of shit, or is an overgeneralization of things, because it isn't like this whole area is just an exposed layer of rock. It's not. It's just we can find layers exposed. So that's going to be my call on it.
Right next to that. So pretty neat to me. That it's not a coincidence that we're finding it this way, and we can answer that. And here's another interesting thing. The 90% of all radioactivity is actually on the continental crust. Why is that? It should be deeper in the earth. Uranium is very heavy. It's being subducted into the earth. Apparently, they think that the core of the earth is actually being powered by uranium and thorium. But yet, here we have it. A huge 90% of all uranium and thorium are concentrated on the continents.
The amounts that we find. Heat production by radioactive decay of uranium, thorium, and potassium plays an important role in continental heat flow. 1991 estimates about 27% of the Earth's heat loss, 4.2 to 10 to the 13th power watts, originates from heat production in the crust, and 90% of uranium and thorium are concentrated in the continents. In general, heat production rates must decrease with depth, otherwise surface values would imply zero or negative mantle heat flow. Feels like this is being mined from greater context. That, again, feel free to look into and leave a comment below, because I don't trust anything these guys say.
And where at on the continents? Well, 53% of it is in Australia. Australia has the vast majority of it. Look at it. Why would it be so random throughout the world?
Possibly because this is a geologically active planet where things happen, materials get distributed, and the continent of Australia just happens to have a lot of accessible uranium, or otherwise we found a lot of it. There could be a bunch of it in other places and we just hadn't found it yet. These aren't the leads you think they are, guys. It's just not. Pretty desperate.
Evolution's true. We're talking about slow subduction happening and occurring all the time from the mid-Atlantic ridge, which would distribute all of these radioactive elements from the core proportionally over all of the Earth.
Bruh, that right there shows you that is not how the continental ridge operates. These are materials from the mantle. This isn't stuff from the core coming up. You don't even understand basic geology. Holy fuck, dude. Y'all don't know shit. You got the three fucking stooges here. The three fucking morons. Oh, I knew he'd betray his stupidity sooner or later. Just knew he would. So basically, what he's saying with all this bullshit is, stuff isn't distributed the way I think it should be, so the Bible's correct, because we're ignoring any actual geology, and we're just making shit up as we go along. Good job.
Billions of years, but yet we find massive disconcordance everywhere. We find massive amounts of it in one region and then almost none of it in others. So very fascinating to me.
Amen. As I listen to
Wow, we find massive amounts of forest in one region and desert in another, and plains in one area, and grasslands and hillsides in the other. Wow.
Erica,
I mean, that's what it sounds like to me. And they still haven't played any of Erica's content or actually, talked about her beyond bringing her up as Kent is trying to now.
his program, she is really stuck on the Pangea idea that the continents are moving. She has a video clip of all.
The Pangea idea isn't that the continents are moving. It was one of the original supercontinents. We've had a couple of them through the life of Earth, and we have documentation of this. Again, examples that you will reject, like dinosaur fossils being found on areas like off the coast of South America and Africa, in this area where they look like they kind of join up. There are some similar fossils, or identical fossils, on both areas, thus adding credence to the idea that they were once joined. Which, funny enough, would work out well for your Bible stories and the way the planet might have been before this flood of Noah that y'all obsess with calling it that. I don't know why. It's another weird thing y'all say. I mean, you can't even just take something that you want to take science and manipulate it to your own accord, but sometimes you miss the obvious stuff to take. Or maybe you will take it. I don't know. Let's see where this goes.
Moving around, they're creating more heat, of course. The whole Pangea thing is stupid, in my humble, totally unbiased opinion.
Yeah, you're stupid in my totally humble, unbiased opinion, and I don't think the continent's moving around is generating as much heat as you may think people are trying to say it is, if any region, non-negligible impact. I could be mistaken on what Erica's video says. I haven't watched whatever video they're particularly critiquing or whatever points they're trying to critique, because I think it's several videos of hers at this stage. But again, it suffices to say they're probably misinterpreting and making up bullshit to add to their attempted debunking as they lie to the cult following. Sheepy sheepy.
Here's what they say. They said the shapes of the continents seem to fit. Put mine up bigger, would you, brother? There you go. The shapes of the continents seem to fit.
Ah, yes. A worm of the dust bringing up the point of, please don't forget to like and share my video. Not this video that we're watching, but my video that you're watching. To get my idiocy out there to combat these idiots. Because I'm still the smarter idiot of the group. Of the four of us here, I'm the genius. They're just scam artists. Con artists, scammers, whatever you want to call them. I'm trying to stay awake here, because honestly, I really want to go to sleep, but I'm fighting the urge. Get through this video. Let's do this.
Similar fossils are found on opposite sides of the oceans and at magnetic reversals. What they don't tell the students in school, they shrank Africa 35 to 40% to make them fit.
No, they didn't. You've been beyond debunked on this. And even if that was the case, you don't show any... You don't show this. You don't show what the context is for this. So, you're wrong, baby.
Mexico and Central America are gone.
Yeah, because they're showing Africa and South America fitting. So if you imagine an image of this, it would be just the two continents as an example.
Let's see. Donde está Mexico, Panama, Costa Rica, Guatemala, Honduras? They're all gone. They took them off. And look, South America is 6.9 million square miles. Africa is 11.6. Don't they look about the same? Does it look 40% larger on this drawing for Pangea?
Kent, I would say citation needed, but no, that's not. There's something down there that looks like 19. What the fuck does that say? I mean, it's microscopic here. 1973, 1870. I can't tell. What is? We have other maps, not just this one diagram showing the gist of it. I'm sure it's just a general depiction of vaguely what things would be like. You take everything so literal, Kent. So literal. Except the actual science.
No, they shrank Africa 40% to make them fit. They twisted America one way and counterclockwise, and twisted Africa the other way. And they miss the obvious. If you take the water out of the oceans, there is dirt underneath. People say, Hovind,
That's not dirt. That's a different material. Dirt is defined, and the material at the seafloor is not dirt.
Do you think the continents were ever connected? I see they're still connected right now underwater.
Yeah, but the continents as we know them, you can even see it on here, these deeper blue areas and such. Continental shelf, the proper continental structure as we've defined it, and then the actual ocean bed. Some pretty cool stuff. Another facet of geology that I do find interesting. Haven't studied super deep into, not recently. Haven't refreshed myself, I should say. Really going to get into that sometime.
Like, duh, how don't they get it? I don't understand, brother.
You don't understand, brother. That's because you don't want to understand. It's because you just want to make shit up. You just want to lie. Also, no one can see your postage stamp bullshit. Which one of you tech geniuses is failing at keeping Kent full is beyond me. God, the incompetence is incredible.
The plates are probably moving. I agree. A little bit. It does not prove they've always been moving. The rate has always been the same we see today. Students ought to be told there's other options.
You know, this is one case where no one's saying the rate was the same. We have evidence that it wasn't. Kind of like tree rings. You mentioned the magnetic reversals earlier, and that gives us a clue as to how layers have been forming over what period of time. Yeah, you got to corroborate some stuff. There's a lot of educated guesswork going on, I would say, but it is educated. That's the critical thing. It is within the scope of science. But again, you just want to discredit all science except where you think it fits you. Hence why you call it brainwashing.
Maybe they just started moving a little bit after Noah's flood when the crust got broken up like an eggshell.
Oh, of course. Magic.
By the fountains of the deep. See, to see them moving today and then to extrapolate.
Diatribe from Hovind incoming. I gotta make myself sound important because I'm going on a monologue. Hovind. I gotta be important. Hovind.
For billions of years is ludicrous. If I go down to Interstate 10 in Pensacola and I see somebody headed east on I.
Oh my God, would you get over Pensacola? Fuck Pensacola, fuck Lenox, Alabama, and fuck you. There's other places in the world than motherfucking Pensacola. You dumbass.
10 going 70 miles an hour. First place, if they're going 70, they're going to get run over because everybody goes 90 on that road, okay? Does that prove they started in Los Angeles 4 days ago? No, they might have just got on at the last exit. So the whole evolution has fallen into this trap.
Hey, Kent. I'm gonna let you in on a secret. Not that this is a point that needs rebutting because it's a stupid analogy, but you can look at the license plate and see where the vehicle is registered, and that might give you a clue as to where they're from. You see Texas, maybe they're from Dallas or something, or somewhere in that area. You see Arizona, there you go. You see California plates, maybe it's that. Hell, you might see Washington plates. You might see Wisconsin plates. You don't know. Could have took weird routes. But there's a way to find out once you see it. That's evidence towards that. So you can infer something. And that's what we do. We look for the evidence to infer these things. We may not know exactly what's going on, but when you pull information together, you can come up with some pretty definitive answers on what is most likely to happen. But if they don't agree with your book from 1611, you've got a problem with it. It's your whole MO. Get over it, Kent. You're fucking wrong.
All the time. They see rates of something happening, something changing, rate of decay, rate of something moving, and then they extrapolate it over billions of years. You cannot possibly know that. They're only trying to avoid two problems. They want the Earth to be billions of years old. So the fact that the magnetic field is getting weaker is an indication it's not.
It's not how the magnetic field works. Has fluctuations. That's how it works. We have the evidence of that in the continental crust that you, again, don't acknowledge.
Not billions. And there's very little sediment at the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, you know what happens at those depths and those pressures? Get enough material together, starts to solidify. It's kind of how geology works. Starts to become kind of rocky. High pressure, high depth. Just how sedimentation works. That's why we have sedimentary rock. You should know this. It's how sedimentary rock forms. That's how it gets its name. You dense idiot.
If the earth were billions, if the oceans were billions of years old, the sediment would build up in there. Heat problem. She's got the heat problem. The Bible said the scoffers in the last days would walk after their own lust and be willingly ignorant of how God made the heavens. They don't understand. The original creation was different. I wish the other creationist groups would really study this topic. There used to be a layer of water or ice above the atmosphere called the canopy.
I want to wrap this up. We're going to. Oh wait, we can't go to 1.25 Kent speed. We're in a video on here. I mean, I'm sure I can, but I don't feel like messing around with the settings. So let's power through this.
Some of them say it's not true. Okay, well, believe what you want. The Jews thought it was true. They always taught there was 2 or 3 finger thick layer of ice over the earth. Okay, and you can have heat sinks up there right now. This crystalline canopy would block a lot of the UV light, gamma, beta rays, gamma rays. Maybe there was a lot less radioactive activity because of the crystalline canopy.
Welcome to the insanity of the Hovind theory.
That just shattered at the flood. Could have been held up by the Earth's magnetic field or held up by an inflatable building. Can the decay half-life of radioactive materials be changed? Yes. Half-life of radioactive material can be changed. They know there are factors that change it. Heat problem.
Yeah, I'd love to see that source, Kent, and the context with it. Because I'm sure there's a lot of context that's missing. And if I'd have paused to read that, I'm sure it's probably in there. But I'm going to leave that to my lovely viewers to go into the details on, if they feel the urge. Because like everything you say, I'm sure it's bullshit.
Just imagine a heat problem. That would prove the Bible to be wrong. We could go on imagining there's no God. Imagine there's no coming judgment. I think God's going to say, Erica, you didn't believe my word. You turned many away from believing me as well.
Oh,
You
blah,
rejected my
blah,
forgiveness.
blah, blah, blah.
You're about to have a heat
Shut
problem,
up,
Erica.
Kent. This is
Apart
your
from-
third
I don't
time
want that. I
threatening
don't want
people.
that for anybody. So, Erica,
Third time threatening people. God, it's pathetic.
tomorrow night, if you want to call in anytime, we'll schedule a debate. If you want to defend your heat problem issue, give me a call.
Ooh, look, Donnie wants to say something. He thinks he's got a real zinger here. But he can't, can't speak against the almighty Hovind.
God's not willing that any should perish. Neither am I. But you're going to die one day, and so am I. I want you to be prepared for that. You got this little bitty dash is all you're going to get. Okay. Thank you. Donnie and Matt, any final thoughts on the heat problem that she talks about?
Yeah, if I could ask you a question, just to leave no stone unturned, because in her video, she also talks about the law of superposition and that it's actually a law. And as we know, a law is basically a statement that tells how something happened.
Laws are descriptive, not prescriptive, so you're kind of there, but I'm sure you're going to pervert this stuff, and if this doesn't go somewhere, I'm going to end the video very soon, so let's see.
And so they are absolutely sure that the law of superposition is true and that the rocks were indeed laid down sequentially over billions of years, where the lower rocks in the flood are a lot older than the rocks at the top.
You know what? I don't even have the energy for it. This is bullshit. Fuck you, Donnie. Fuck you, Matt. Fuck you, Kent. Erica, you rock. I'm tired. I'm going to get ready to go to sleep. Thank you for watching the video. Check out the links in the description. I'll catch you next time. Later.